Hi guys, today we're changing the valve stem seals on this N42 engine. Now this engine have a problem with the valve stem seals, so when they get old they get very hard and they don't seal anymore, so the oil gets between the stem and the seal, and so the engine starts consuming a lot of oil, and that oil goes through the exhaust and comes out as blue smoke. So we're gonna need some special tools for this job. We are going to need this special timing toolkit, which has the VANOS timing tool, and then also this locking tool for the camshafts, pre-tensioning tool for the chain guide, and then this special pin for locking the engine in the top dead center position. So we are also going to need a valve compress tool. I made one myself, so we will see in the later part of this video how to use this tool to compress springs. And we're also going to need this special adapter. This goes into the spark plug hole on one side, and on this side it gets connected to the compressor, so that enables us to compress the spring without the valve falling into the engine. And then we're also going to need this angle gauge for the VANOS screws, and we're gonna need new screws for the VANOS units. They are stretch bolts, so you cannot reuse the old bolts, you have to use new bolts every time you do this job. And last, we have new seals. As you can see, we have 16 new seals, and we also have these valve protectors. You can use this tool to prevent scratching the valves when you're changing the seals. So you're also going to need a large toolkit. You can use power battery drill to work faster. You will also need a torque wrench. This one goes to 25 Newton meters, and we're gonna need long pliers and a bunch of long zip ties, and we're gonna use that for locking the Valvetronic gear and taking it out as a single unit. So we can do that job with a special tool, but we can also do that job with just using the zip ties. We're also going to need a compressor with compressed air, and we're also going to use this floor jack because we have to jack up the car to insert this special top dead center locking tool. Okay, so let's start this job by first removing this cover here, and then we're going to remove the air filter cover and the air filter housing. We're going to remove this plastic cover. We're going to remove this plastic valve cover. We're also going to remove this secondary valve to gain some access, and then we're going to remove Valvetronic system, Valvetronic gear, and then we're going to remove VANOS units, we're going to remove camshafts, and then we can finally get to the valve stem seals and change them. So let's start. So next we're going to remove this air filter housing. This is the cabin filter, and now we're gonna need 30 T30 Torque screws. They're full bolts holding this part here, so I'm just going to unscrew them. And then I'm going to unclip this plastic cover for these cables and pull them out like this. And then we can take out the whole housing like this. Next we are going to remove this plastic cover by using 10mm socket. There are only 2 screws holding it in, so when you undo them you can pull out this cover like this. Next we are going to remove this secondary air valve. It's also a 10mm socket. Make sure you don't lose the bolts, because then you will have a bad day. So here are the nuts. Then we can remove this oil cap. Now this oil cap is missing a special plastic part that attaches to the valve cover, but if you want to remove it, just unscrew the oil cap and then you open it like this, and then you'll see an arrow here and an arrow mark on the plastic part that is attached on this. And when you match those errors, you can undo the plastic part and it comes off. Next, we want to remove this plastic part. And put the oil cap back. Now we're going to remove this back plate. It's we have 2 screws here, and a plastic screw here, which you just undo by turning it and pulling it out. So first I'm gonna undo that 2 bolts. That's the first one, and the second one, and then I'm going to release this plastic screw by turning it 90 degrees and just pulling it out. Like this. This is the part you'll have to remove in order to remove this back cover. Now you can just lift the cover up towards yourself and up like this, and it goes out. So now we can take out the secondary air valve. You can remove it by squeezing this plastic part by the groove part of the ring. So you just squeeze it and slowly take it out. So this is the secondary air valve. As you can see, we have a lot of dirt here, but we can clean this out and it should be fine. Next, we want to remove the ignition coils. We can do that by lifting up these special clips which release the connectors for the coils, and then you can just pull the connectors out. Sometimes they do get a bit stuck, so just wiggle it a bit and it should release. Okay, now we can pull out the coils. That's the first coil. The second coil. The third coil. And the fourth coil. Now make sure you keep this in the same order. You always want to do that, because if there's an issue with something, you can then diagnose it by putting everything back into its original position. So I'm going to mark those and I'm going to put it safely away. Now we're going to remove this harness. So we're going to disconnect the Valvetronic connector. That's the connector for the Valvetronic motor, and then we have connector for the Valvetronic position sensor, which is basically just clipped in like this. And we're gonna put it aside. Next, we want to remove this wire holder, which just unclips. And now we have to unscrew the grounding wires, which are 10mm sockets. Make sure you don't lose the wire, I mean the nut. Now we're going to remove this harness altogether, so we have to unplug the CCV hose, which comes here. Again, you have to squeeze the hose where the grooved part is and just pull it out. Now we can remove the wire harness and just put it away like this. And now we can start removing this valve cover. So you just use 10 10mm socket and undo all the screws. I'm gonna start from the outside in. We're gonna need some extension for this part here. So the last bolt has an 8mm nut which is holding on this metal bracket that holds the vacuum line. So you can just unscrew that using 8mm socket. I'm just going to undo this by hand. Make sure you don't drop it. This is how this nut looks like. Now we can remove the vacuum line holder, and that gives us access to this bolt right here. And now we can undo the center one. And then we must not forget to remove this VANOS connector seal, which is also attached with two 10mm bolts, like this. And then we can remove it. So this is how the flange looks like. Now we are ready to remove this valve cover. Make sure you don't lose any of the bolts. Also, you have to be careful not to switch the bolts, because these two bolts have different size than these two, and all of the other ones have the same length. So be very careful, don't switch these bolts up, because they have different length. Now we can remove the valve cover by gently pulling out like this. Again, be careful not to lose any bolts, especially inside the engine. And I already lost a bolt. Or something. It's not a bolt. It's actually these plastic domes, the plastic cylinders that come here. So this is the valve cover and the valve cover gasket. I'm going to put this somewhere clean and safe. Here are the two plastic cylinders that fell off. They come here and here at the fourth spark plug, and they have O-rings around it, so this is a very good time to change them. So we're going to take those out. Okay, let's take a look at the engine now. So as you can see, here are the two VANOS units. This is the intake side and this is the exhaust side. And as you can see, it's being held on by two screws here and here. And we have our Valvetronic connector here, Valvetronic motor. This whole assembly here is the Valvetronic bracket and Valvetronic unit. As you can see, we have the eccentric shaft going over here. We have some oil lines going here, and so here is the vacuum pump. We're also going to change the vacuum pump seals, because if I use my hand to reach around the vacuum pump, I can see that there's a lot of oil dripping from the vacuum pump, and this is a sure sign of bad seals on the vacuum pump. Now this vacuum pump is screwed in by 3 screws, so we're going to do that later. But for now we're just going to put the engine in the right timing, and then we're going to remove the VANOS screws.